See, first of all, when we talk of the word strategic autonomy, so I have a bit of a difference on this phrase itself that needs to be clarified. Now, in my opinion, there are only three great powers in the world, and those three powers are America, China, and Russia. And by definition, a great power is which has a capability to influence events anywhere in the world, and it can take care of its sovereignty by itself. So, why I'm saying this is because, in my opinion, only these three great powers today have strategic autonomy. When you talk of strategic autonomy, what to me it means is that the capability to take your decisions by yourself, not be intimidated, not be coerced, not to be pressurized by any other country to change your policies or to change your action. So only the great powers can do that. India is not one of them. So it will be incorrect to say that India has strategic autonomy. I mean, it's okay to talk as part of a rhetoric, but this is not the truth. See, what has happened is that the Modi government in India since 2020 has invested a lot in America. And the reason for that is simple that in 2020, the Galwan killings happened between India and China on the border. So, consequent to that, India has signed practically all the military foundational agreements. We have signed that, we have done much more than that. If you see the list of agreements that have been signed, in my opinion, India has become a de facto ally. This is one part, de facto, not de jure. And the other thing is that now we are embedded. When I say now, that means India is embedded in the Indo-US Pacific Command Defense Network. Just to recall to your readers, your viewers, that it was President Trump in his first term in office in May 2018 that he renamed the US Pacific Command as US Indo-Pacific Command to give centrality to India. So in his first term in office, the Trump thinking was entirely different. In the second term in office, the thinking is entirely different. In my opinion, what most analysts say that President Trump is unpredictable, I do not think he is. Because if you see, even during his election campaigns, he made it very clear that his focus was MAGA, which is Make America Great Again. And this was to be made great again by a policy of isolationism. That doesn't mean you remove yourself from the world, but what it means is that you build up your national power and you build up your deterrence. And his second aspect was to end the forever wars, which is precisely what he is doing in Ukraine. So your question, I would like to answer this way, because India has invested so much. So there is an anxiety. If I may even use the word, there is a worry in India that what will happen because the stakes are high. And why I say stakes are high from the government perspective is that we decided to be in a competition with China, which is our neighbor. When I say competition, basically India's External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar repeatedly has been saying that both India and China, they are rising, which is true. But the point is, they are rising relatively. So you have to quantify also which country is rising how much. So you see, so the whole idea is that the Modi government, which is not founded, that India is actually in competition with China. So it believes that with the support that it will get from America, it can continue projecting itself as being in competition with China. You see, but what has happened is President Trump has turned the world upside down. As I said, he's got an agenda. And until now, it's just been 2 weeks. And the whole world today is in complete turmoil. It's upside down because a lot of leaders and a lot of regions have been rendered geopolitically irrelevant. So India is worried. There is a lot of anxiety here because the stakes, as I said, are high. See, you have actually asked two questions and both are very interesting. Let me answer them one by one. The first is that India America relations. Well, they are important for America, but it is not President Trump's priority. That is the point. It is a very significant point because his priority is somewhere else. His priority is to make America great again. And in that, he has a certain role which is not a priority role for India. So it doesn't mean that they will not share their technology. What it means is, in very simple terms, they have a great market. All the US big tech companies are already here. As far as the emerging technologies are concerned, which is prominent amongst them is AI architecture, which is the data centers. They are being built here with American companies, tech companies help, total help. And then you have these semiconductors. So all this is happening. But the government policy, the White House policy is not a priority for India. That is point number one. Now, the second question that you raised is equally interesting. You see, when we frame a foreign policy, what we consider in making a foreign policy is things like any country, it is not specific to India. You look at the country's geography, where is it located? You look at the country's history, and you look at a country's national power. And national power at a time like this, when you are looking at a foreign policy in terms of global shifts, it is primarily three things. You're looking at technology, you're looking at military power, and you're looking at economic power. Now, this is a traditional way of making foreign policy. What has happened is there is an opportunity today for India, which is the geopolitical opportunity, which changes your entire foreign policy, the traditional way of looking at foreign policy. And what this means is basically that today, if you see Asia Pacific, what the Chinese and the Russians call Asia Pacific, and the Americans and the West and India, they call Indo Pacific. This has become the arena or the theater for great power contestation. Let me explain this also what it means. What it means is that it is in this theater, all the three great powers that I spoke about, they have their vision and their mission to be accomplished. Let's simplify this, move away from rhetoric to see in reality what could be one of the missions. So one of the missions would be that if you see from Western Pacific and right till going to the Strait of Hormuz, you cross the entire Indian Ocean region. This is where annually 4 trillion commercial trade passes, of which China's trade alone is more than $1 trillion every year. So this is where the contestation is. I'm just giving you one example. For example, that whoever has a control or has a good security framework in place for the commercial or the sea lanes of communications is secure. So the aim of in my opinion, the Chinese and the Russians, they are looking at how to make that trade secure. And in my opinion, because the Americans believe in a balance of power politics, in a zero-sum game, so they want India, especially in the Indian Ocean region, to be their military bulwark against the commercial trade which passes through that. So my point is going back to where we started, foreign policy. So there is an opportunity for India. And what is the opportunity? The opportunity is that all the three great powers today need India because India is located so well. It is right in the middle of this contestation area, the theater. Now, if Trump has withdrawn, when I say withdrawn, that means it is not a priority. It is not that India is not important at all for America, not a priority. Then India should consider its foreign policy because after all, what is foreign policy? Foreign policy is an extension of your domestic policy. And what is our domestic policy for India today? that by Prime Minister's own admission, 80 crore people, which is 800 million people, are below the poverty line. We are a poor country. So our foreign policy should be how to make the lives of these 80 crore people better. Now, if this is what it should be, then obviously we have to consider China. Why has the contestation come? When I say global contestation, why it has come from Europe to our region is primarily because of the rise of China. So when you look at your geography, you look at your geopolitical opportunity, and you, because Russia also, as you see, now Russia is a huge country. The better part of Russia landmarks is actually in Asia and not in West. And they also have shifted their gaze from West to East. So everybody is here, the three great powers. India should look at now its national power, which relative to China is very small. It has geography, it has a market, it has a history, it has two military lines to contend with. You see, with Pakistan and with China, and it has an opportunity. And what is the opportunity today? The opportunity is BRICS. That is the opportunity. India is a founding member of BRICS, which is why I keep saying, and this is my conviction, that if India invests in South Asia, if it invests in peace, it will get development. We want peace with Pakistan. We should have peace with China. This is critical because, and again, how will the peace come? Let's say with Pakistan, peace cannot come if both the countries have a zero-sum game mindset, which they have today. Because any small thing happens, even this cricket match that was going on, it is about Pakistan ko hara diya, India ko hara diya. No. You see, there is a different format. A format which has been given by China, accepted by majority of the global South nations, and the format is move away from a zero-sum game and look at win-win situations. So we have to look at win-win situation. If India and Pakistan can look at win-win situation, we will know where to place Kashmir. We will know what is our priority. We will know what we get from one another. So this is my suggestion for India, that now that an opportunity has come, and because the Trump administration is right here and they have their own thinking. So while you go along with America, but make sure that you focus more on the country which is a global South country that you are. India is a global South country, and you should make friends and peace with your neighbors. President Trump, when he was first asked about BRICS, he didn't know anything about BRICS. In fact, he was trying to find out what is BRICS. As I said, there are three great players which exercise strategic autonomy in BRICS. Two of those great powers are there. So to say that Trump can influence BRICS is not a sensible thing. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Because those two great powers have strategic autonomy. And this is why the global South is gravitating towards that. So that is one. Second is the threats of Trump that I will impose 100% tariff on people who do de-dollarization. Now, if you see the trade between China and America, it is a huge trade. And despite everything that he is saying, I'm sure you know that right now there are people on the economic side of both China and America which are talking with one another. Because the trade is huge. You cannot ignore China. I mean, a country which is there, when you see there are total today in the world 193 nations, 140 of those are the primary trading partner with China. And 135 nations are on board the Belt and Road Initiative. China today provides 30% of the global manufacturing. China is there all the important supply chains of the world. And if I may add, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi recently at the Munich Security Conference, he said that while the GDP growth of China is 5%, it is still contributing 30% to the global economy. So the point I'm making is very simple. that countries like India and US, it will be their loss. It will be their loss. The threats means nothing. You have to go by the reality. You have to go by the facts. I see no way that the BRICS momentum will stop with or without India. Now, if India is there in BRICS, which it is as a founding member of BRICS, then it helps. Why it helps is because India is a global south nation, India has a huge market, and if it can work in a win win way, then BRICS can help us and it can help BRIC stabilize. If I may go a step further and say, in my opinion, today BRICS is the centerpiece or the central institution that can stabilize the global geopolitics. It is so important and it is not stopping by any threats. India is a developing country, and like so many developing countries in global south, so under the WTO rules, India is to be treated in a preferential manner. But what Trump now is saying is that I do not accept the WTO rules, I throw them out of the window. And I will have reciprocal tariff on India. That means if you impose this much, I will impose the same. So India has kept quiet. Why it has India has kept quiet is very simple, because today there is $45 billion trade in favor of India. And Trump has already given out a list of how you will dilute that, and India is working on that. Because for India, the important thing is, as I said, the close ties with America. Why it is important with America is A, because India has decided it wants to get all the emerging technologies from America. It does not want to have it from China. And India has also decided that it wants to be seen as competing with China, which is only possible if it has, in India's thinking. When I say India, the government of India is thinking that they are seen as close allies of America. So India has accepted all the terms, but obviously a country like China cannot be pushed. It has strategic autonomy. A country like Russia cannot be pushed. It has strategic autonomy. You see? So therefore, China has not accepted. So the two sides are now talking to one another. And let me go a step further. The French president Macron was recently asked in an interview that would you get the Chinese technology? He says, why not? He said, why not? Because the point is that any country, when you talk of cyber threats, when you talk of, you see these backdoors, when you talk of all these espionage, any country can do it. I mean, America also has done it. There's a famous case of that Edward Snowden.
Correct.
I mean, any country does it. They do it on their allies. There's enough evidence of that. In fact, there is no evidence of China doing it. Or if it is there, I'm not aware. So the point is, a country, when Macron says a thing like this, that I can consider Chinese technology, what he's saying is that I'll be slightly more careful as far as Chinese technology is concerned. Therefore, I will have a very stringent cyber security. So you see, this is how it works. You cannot stop China's rise. That is the point Mr. Trump has still to understand.